So let's start off, Gillian, if we can, with our first questions, which were all around your early inspirations in IT and your career path. So tell us a little bit about what initially sparked your interest in the field of IT.
I wasn't interested. I didn't care. I went for a job as a secretary, and the man, it was somewhere like Dixon's in North London. And he said, "You're too bright for this. They're recruiting for people working in tech in such a recruitment agency. Go and talk to them." So I did. And they went, "Oh, we've got a great job for you. Do you mind working nights?" And so I became an operator. It was so exciting. It was so incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
And I think I was more excited that I was going to be working nights than I expected to get a white coat because I thought I was going to be a scientist. And I
Brilliant.
get there in my jeans and my punk hairdo, and I just thought this is brilliant because it's using all of my brain, and I
Yeah.
really
So
felt it was important.
yeah, that makes sense. And then as that sort of initial entry into the sector began, what stage then did you get to? Wait, were there any pivotal moments where you thought, actually, do you know what? I think I'm going to be quite good at this, and I can see a bit of a. Did you ever think about it as a career, or did you
Yeah,
just
I
keep
did.
rolling?
I did. My dad was an electronics engineer. And so one of the things that happened was when I got into the computer suite, I realized that it wasn't scary. And I think if I
Oh,
hadn't, kind of wired plugs and done stuff with him as a kid, then maybe it would have been a bit more scary. But actually, it was so much fun. It was,
yeah,
it was,
yeah,
laughter fun. It was
yeah,
brilliant because the
yeah,
people were all smart and intelligent,
yeah,
and you wanted to
yeah,
be there. You wanted to be part of
yeah.
it. So
I
yeah,
think it's I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because we often think of, people going into that tech sector, are they people that enjoy solo working, perhaps working on individual tasks? And what you're describing there, even when in your early parts of your career, is just the amount of teamwork that exists
yeah,
in
yeah.
that particular
And I think it's both
sector.
things. So I really got a buzz out of problem solving and working. So this would invariably be through the night, having a problem and working on it and working
Yeah,
out how that was, how we could fix it. However, the teamwork was amazing as well. So
yeah,
there was a brilliant mix.
yeah,
And I guess what it says about technology is there are jobs in both or there are
yeah.
jobs with both, and you can
Mhm.
choose that. You can choose what suits you best. So if you
Yeah,
like that deep focus, then
yeah,
coding or, testing. But then if you want to be sociable, then the business analysis or, kind of the sales, and it's such a broad field. You can have so many different kinds of jobs. So,
yeah.
yeah, I think,
And what sort of, because if I remember correctly from your bio, you were in IBM for 20 years, was it? Was that
yeah,
the
22.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how did your career grow? Did you apply for jobs? Did people come and say to you, look, we're developing this tech. Do you want to come and work on it? How did that? Because I mean, that's a great tenure and what a, leading organization in tech to work
Mm,
with.
yeah, no, I didn't start there. I started in a shipping company and spent 7 years there. And then I got bored. 7 years is a thing. Well, it is for me anyway. I kind of
Mm.
got bored. I think I'd got to shift leader and that meant going up through senior operator and what have you. And I just got bored. And then I went and applied for Citibank and went to work at Citibank for a while. So I thought they were some sham company. I didn't realize they were one of the biggest banks in the world because I was a bit naive about it all. But went to lead a team and then started leading the data center there. And that was for an experimental data center. So that was really positive. And then one of the senior managers said something. Well, I'd shifted a bit. I'd taken on a role managing a small team who were looking after scheduling and security across tech security across the bank and some ops analysis work. And one of the senior managers said something really racist about one of the people in my team, and I was incensed. And I just thought, I'm not working here. For me, this is part of my personality that everything has to be fair and equal. And so I was so furious. So I went contract. I just said, right, I'm not going to do this. I found a contract really quickly, used the skills that I'd acquired over the last kind of 8-9 years, and went contracting for BT for a while. And I think I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I just knew that I didn't want to be in that particular department. Oh. And then I went off to work for IBM. So I thought I wouldn't get the job. So I applied for the job because I'd always wanted to teach technology. And I went for the interview and I took one of those aptitude tests. And the guy who sat me down after the interview said, that's the worst test we've ever seen anyone do. But you are so incredibly enthusiastic and we think you'll be a great communicator. And therefore, we're going to give you a try. Yeah. And when I got into the department, I realised why it had been such a bad test, because all of the people that I was working with were Oxford and Cambridge. And I was completely daunted. For about 3 weeks, I was like, well, I don't fit here. They're all too brainy. I'm not this brainy. I haven't got a degree. I failed my A-levels. I went to see the Sex Pistols. I didn't get a degree. And but I did have the practical experience. And after about 3 weeks, they asked me to go and view one of the courses with a view to me teaching it later on. And at the end of the course, I said, why don't you teach this topic in this subject? And they went, well, nobody uses it. And I went, yes, I do. Everybody uses it. It was a thing called generation data groups. And it was the way that we cycled at the time, where we cycled round a week. So we knew what day it was, or we cycled round the year. So we knew that it was the end of the retail year calendar. And so it was fundamental. And I went, yes, everybody uses this function. We all use it. We have to, because it does this. And they went, oh, that's interesting. They said, well, we don't actually understand it. And I realised that there's a practical set of knowledge and there's a theoretical set of knowledge, and that I was coming in with practicality, which they didn't have because they'd brought it all from, and it made me, it was so pivotal, because I think I might have walked otherwise. But at the same time, it made me realise that we've all got something that we can bring.
Yeah. And that's a great message for our students, because some of the things you've described there around your problem solving skills, your team working, your enthusiasm, your communication skills. And in fact, we did a webinar recently for our students around imposter syndrome, which was probably a little bit that you were saying there about, oh, I'm new, I don't know everything, but actually this is my view and I'm going to, stick by it. And also, I mean, I know you as well, but being a very values-led person, and I think people spot that as a really strong character trait as well. So, but just picking up from one of the things that you said there as well, because I mean, clearly, throughout your career, you've held your values really, really clear. And can you tell us anything about any of the perhaps challenges or barriers that you had to overcome in your career that you particularly faced as a woman? So anything where there was gender bias from a stereotype point of view that was either bias by choice or non-biased. Do you know what I mean?
It's an enormous long list.
Oh, right. Oh my gosh, that's not great to hear. But yeah, I wonder if you could share sort of what they were and how you overcame them.
I think that's because I started work in 1977, so I came through the 80s. So consequently, things were different then. I don't think it's entirely gone away. But, things were different. So I was told that I couldn't wear trousers at work. You will never wear trousers inside of IBM. That changed, And so what that said to me is, you can't be comfortable at work, because I hated a skirt. I still hate a skirt. If I buy them, they stay in the wardrobe forever. So yeah, things like that. But I think even now, there are things that happen to women that don't happen so much to men. So, for example, at the moment, I'm doing some research with friends from Aberystwyth University and the Open University, and what we've discovered is that there's a thing called a microaggression or a microbehavior. It's a little dig at you. It kind of undermines your sense of self-belief or sense of self-worth. And women on tech courses experience that more than men do, which means you've got to wear your big girl knickers and you've got to tough it out a bit because it does happen to us more.
Yeah.
And the other thing you've got to tough out is when they say, "Oh, don't do the coding. Why don't you take the notes?" You've got to tough that one out. When you're asked to work in a group, then you want to be having a go at the coding too. And you want to be having a go at the big tasks, not just doing the housework around
Yeah.
the things the group are doing, like, I'll do the admin, I'll make sure we meet at the right time. So I think you really have to be strong in yourself to do that.
And just sort of think, I mean, great advice for our students there. And I know you've always been an advocate of DE&I and something that's really important to you. And you talk there about some of the strategies that, women may need to apply because we do think differently, and we may be put in different situations where our behaviours need to be adjusted, as men do in as well. I don't just think it's a single gender there, but have you got any examples of where you think organisations are doing great stuff in terms of trying to improve, the gender diversity in the IT sector? I think at the moment, isn't it something like only 26% of senior IT positions are held by women or something?
Yeah.
You've probably got more up-to-date stats than me, but have you got any examples of what you think good looks like and what organisations should be doing?
I've got some examples of things that have happened or have been done that are really useful. So, for example,
Okay.
one of the things we talk about is when women go off to have kids, when they come back, we isolate them. We isolate them during their pregnancy, during their, kind of the initial child rearing. So when they're ready to come back, it's all really scary. And we do things like, "Oh, we'll take your email address away and we'll give it you back afterwards." What? Stay in contact with me. I'm not going away. I'm just going to have a kid. And in the UK, because our birth rate has dipped below replacement levels, we need that. So, let's make sure that we look after our women as they come back. We stay in touch with them. We don't take away their privileges. And then to ease women back in, one of the big banks had this wonderful program where they had a job board, and it had like 2-day jobs or half a day's worth of a job. And you, as a woman who was looking after her kid, for the initial 6 months, as you were considering coming back into the workplace, you could take these 2-day jobs off of the rota, and you could say, "I'll do that." And whether it was something you'd previously done or not, that didn't matter. You could then say, "Oh, well, I'll build the spreadsheet for X, Y, and Z, or I'll lead the team to do this 2-day piece of work." And what it meant was you got seen in other departments. So you had the ability to perhaps move later to other departments. But also you got to try out new skills that you hadn't really thought you might have. And they found it was so useful for the women. They then started making it available for people coming back from long-term illness. And then they started making it available to anyone. So isn't that fascinating?
Yeah. No, that's really good. And look, we see lots of examples with our sort of partners that are trying to encourage women back in. For me, it starts right back at school, and I know you're passionate about those early careers. Students coming into IT for both genders, not just. But I think there's a lot of work still left to do at organisational level, but it's on the agenda. We are encouraging it, and certainly, that sort of conscious bias, really needs to be eradicated. Sometimes people may have unconscious bias, perhaps don't realise. Got to share with what I'm thinking, but we are seeing some improvement. But for for me, there's still quite a long way to go. But that's some nice examples there of
It really improves
organisations.
the culture as well. We started working,
Yeah.
this is not just specifically in IT, but we started working with
Yeah.
this organisation who did office space in London. You know, you kind of go and use their offices. And we've been working with them for about 5 years now. And initially, they had some big problems, not just in the IT department with balance, but in other departments like facilities. You know, facilities were all men because they were the plumbers or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
heating
Yeah.
engineers. And they've really shifted that. But what's happened is the culture's changed and it's so much fun to work there. And so when we
Yeah.
first went in, it was a really different culture. And now when we go in, they are flying. They're utterly flying. So I think it makes a
Definitely.
big difference.
Yeah. And that links me quite nicely, actually, just thinking about another subject, which is just around leadership, because as we all know, as we develop through our career and sometimes our technical capability, whilst it's still really important, we may, as we progress through our career, lean more on our leadership skills. So I just wanted to talk about that and your experiences, really. So clearly you're the founder of your own business as well, so Tectra that you're running at the moment. And I wonder if you could just tell our listeners a little bit about what motivated you to start your own company and what that journey's been like from a leadership point of view, leading from the front, driving the business.
So what motivated me was seeing this woman standing on stage. This was years ago. I was just coming up to 50. And there was this woman standing on stage at some event I went to. And she said, if anyone had told me that when I was 70, I'd be running my own company, I would never have guessed it because I was I don't know, she'd been social worker or something. I was a social worker. But at 50, I started my own company and look at me now. And I was dead impressed. And I thought, oh, I could do that. And then when IBM changed, they changed some of the policies around retirement. I just thought, right, that's it. I'm going to start my own company. But what's really interesting is you don't know half the stuff. You kind of think, oh, well, I've done sales and I've done marketing and I've done, product management and I've led a research team. So I'll be all right then. But I didn't know how to build an invoice. I didn't know there's something really fundamental.
There's always something to learn.
Yeah, always. But it's been
Yeah.
incredibly good fun. So for a while, we created some software around green IT. That was great.
Okay.
Yeah. And then that kind of came to an end because around about 2011, they said, oh, we're not supporting sustainability anymore within the UK marketplace. It's come back now. So we had to change. As an entrepreneur, you've got to change fast. You've just got to kind of go, right, oh, well, we'll do this then. And so we changed. And then we did recruitment. I hated that. I hated recruitment. Until I started doing recruiting women into tech because that fit with my... So there's part of building your own company, which is about making it fit with your own sense of value, your own needs. And then we'd send off all these CVs for women and they'd kind of go, oh, they look good, but let's have one of the men as well. I was like, no, hang on a minute. You said you wanted women. So then we started training on DE&I as well because we realised that the unconscious biases were stopping the managers from actually, taking that step and taking the women.
Yeah.
So it's been really good fun.
And in your tenure as president of the Chartered Institute of IT, what are some of the things, the initiatives and projects that you worked on there that you're most proud of?
So again, it goes back to the same set of values. So I started working on the ethics specialist group because Horizon had just blown up and, it seemed really important. And so we ran a huge survey of all of the tech workers. We had, I don't know, maybe 1,500 people respond, which in survey terms is good. And asked them how important they thought computer ethics was. And from that, we wrote a paper which we then could present to government. So when they did their big AI ethics conference, we could have an answer about that. So I'm really pleased that we did that. That feels like it was the right thing at the right time. But also is really driven by my own sense of
To your
values.
values.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of the sort of IT sector and looking at the evolution of what's going on at the moment, and of course we can't read anything or be in any meeting where, it's referencing the impact of AI, but what do you think are some of the emerging trends in the sort of IT or tech sector that you will really believe help shape the future of IT? A lot with AI. So, I mean, everybody could say, well, AI will have the biggest impact. But I think if you opened up that bucket, what have you got any thoughts about how you might
Yeah,
see things over the
I
next?
get
I
really
mean,
quite
things move so quickly now.
yeah, I get excited about health tech in general. The
Yes.
ability of the new technologies, the new applications, and the application of AI to health to make a really serious difference for people across the world. So that, yeah. And then,
Yeah.
everything's got a tech, isn't it? So there was a fintech and there's a health tech and there's a prop tech. So everybody is this
Yeah.
huge burgeoning of applications across. So
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
really exciting. Who wouldn't want to be in this industry right now?
Mm. Yeah. And what's your thoughts on the industry's willingness to have like career changes? Somebody could have started their career as a teacher, has always been really interested, coded in their bedroom at the weekend or on a Sunday afternoon whilst, relaxing. I thought, I'm really interested in the tech world. And then made the jump to perhaps retrain, get some qualifications, and just need somebody to give them a shot. You remember like your first shot of you shouldn't do that sort of
Um,
secretarial role. You should actually come in and do this for us.
mm,
What's your thoughts on, is the industry open enough to career changers helping fill those talent pipelines,
I
which
think
we know are not full? There are lots of vacant tech
yeah,
jobs, and there
yeah.
isn't enough, talent to fill them at the moment. So have you got a view on that?
I do think it's important to lots of companies. The big companies are always the first to drive something like that. So the KPMGs and the IBMs and the BPs, they'll be the ones who'll be driving that. And I've come across several where they are looking for people who want to do career restarts, and they're actually actively promoting programs to do that. They get so much more, don't they? I mean, if you think about it, if you've had a kid and then you come into the workplace with a bit of your career from prior to having the child, plus the child rearing, and now you've gone to change, what a skill set you've got. So you've got
Yeah.
this amazing ability to juggle, to organise, and whatever
Yeah.
skills you also had, and now you've
Yeah.
got the tech skills, your trained
Yeah.
tech skills.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
getting a fully rounded individual, and I think that's why they want it.
Yeah, I love that phrase. I love fully rounded individual. And I think, certainly with a lot of our students, they have those transferable skills, whether it was they were working in a different sector to begin with in their early career, or they've taken a career break, perhaps in the female or in the male environment where
Yeah, yeah.
they've taken some time out to look at the family. I mean, being a mum of two with me, it was, it's one of the most demanding jobs, one of the most rewarding jobs, but it takes a lot. And actually the skills that you do in, running a family and a home and everything that goes with it, there are transferable skills. And
Well,
like you say, if they've then gone and
that
got their tech
leadership, that
skills.
empathizing, all of the
Yes.
things that now we are
Yeah.
saying are the key skills for leadership. You learn
Yeah.
them through that child rearing phase. So
Yeah.
who wouldn't
Yeah.
want somebody like that on their
Yeah.
team?
Yeah. I think that's a lovely message for the sort of females wanting to go in the sector. And I've had conversations with women before where they've almost like wanted to apologize for what is a career break in their CV.
Mm,
I'm like, there's no apology needed.
yeah.
That was a decision
Maybe
that
we
you
should in the
made.
CV, right? Oh, and during that career break, I learned
I
to.
did.
Yeah, I did all
Yeah,
these things.
absolutely. I
Yeah,
raised, two small children. I did this. I did it within a budget. I met all the quality set. I mean, you just think
yeah,
about everything you do as a parent. You've got to keep these
yeah.
small people alive. So yeah, I think for women particularly, it's taking those transferable skills, whether they're in a previous career or in a time out of work for raising a family for a while. Let's share those with a new employer. I think they should never be apologetic for that. So
No,
yeah,
not
we
at
really
all.
encourage our students to build on that.
Yeah.
So just on those sort of last sort of rounding up, really, just sort of reflecting, really. looking back at your career, which is amazing, and it's great to talk to such an experienced female from the tech sector. If you had to say, the two things that you were most proud of and what you want your legacy to be,
Oh,
what would they
Lord.
be?
Oh, that
Difficult
wasn't on
questions.
there.
You can have time to think.
Mm. I'm really chuffed that we wrote the book. We wrote a book for IT departments on how to support women in tech. And we did that through the British Computer Society, the Chartered Institute for IT. And we did that because we felt that whilst the women probably got it, and maybe not everybody got it. And so it was useful. So here.
That's a nice piece of work to have left,
Yeah.
isn't it? I mean, that's going to be really great content for people. And I love the way that it's not just about for the women to read that, but actually for, hiring managers, whether
Not
they're
the
male or
women's
female.
job, is it?
No.
It's for the hiring managers, it's for the IT
Yeah.
leaders, it's
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I don't know about legacy. I had some great times. I went off to write technical manuals for IBM in America and went and lived there for a while. That was cool. That was so much fun.
I should imagine.
Yeah, I've had a great time. I really enjoyed. I led as chair of the project this collaboration between IBM and Cardiff University and two small independent companies, and we built something called Healthcare at Home. And so what we were looking at was a contact lens that could measure the glucose in your eye and then could relate that to diabetes and whether you were, okay, your glucose level. Today, people have got patches, and I know that the work that we did was the precursor to that, because what we were doing was working out how to take a signal from the body and send it to the mobile phone, to an app. And so this was 2003. And
Wow.
the patches for diabetes have come in in the last
Yeah.
5 years.
And tech.
So the
Yeah.
precursor work we were doing
Yeah.
way back then.
Amazing. Yeah. What a great sense of satisfaction to see how tech supports saving lives. I mean, that's
Oh,
what happens.
yeah,
I mean, that's
and why
definitely.
health tech for me,
Yeah.
it's important, But
Yeah.
the things
Yeah.
that
No.
people have been working on over the last 10 to 15 years
Yeah.
will be
Yeah.
coming up, in the
Yeah.
next 10
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Um, and final then, any top tips for those females, particularly of going into the sector? You've mentioned a few things around, making sure that you get an opportunity to do things and speak up and,
Yeah.
put your shoulders back and stride in and be
Yeah, just
curious, I think is what you're describing.
believe in
Any other
yourself.
tips?
Believe in yourself.
Believe. Yeah.
Notice when you're being gaslighted, notice when you're being mansplained and call it out. Call it out nicely
Okay.
and go, ha,
Yes.
you're mansplaining me. And, and do it with humor and humility. But actually, what you're doing is saying to them, don't do that to me.
Yeah. Make it really
Because
clear.
that's the way that you retain your self-worth, that you
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you've got value.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been in a business now for 35 years and worked, a little bit like you, in quite a male dominated in the defence sector for 20. So yeah, and sometimes I think as a female, other genders don't know sometimes how they're coming across, and actually by
Yeah.
calling it out makes people change because it wasn't being done intentionally. So I think sometimes it has been, and sometimes it may not be. So I don't think never be afraid of saying, actually,
Yeah.
that just made me feel a bit uncomfortable. I need
Yeah.
to let you know that.
In our research, it was interesting that the males in the community often didn't notice that micro
Yes.
inequities, microaggressions were happening. The women noticed, the men
Yeah,
didn't.
interesting.
And it's
Yeah.
because it's not happening to them, which is all right. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's just that
Okay.
they're not noticing, so you've got to call it
Yeah.
out. I think you're
Yeah.
right.
We need to point it out. Cool.
Mm.
Thank you. Well, you've been amazing. We've thoroughly enjoyed this sort of half hour with you and given us lots of insight into your career and what a great career it's been. And I'm sure you're going to inspire loads of both male and female listening in on this, and some tips and tricks of as how to navigate through. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Reg.